Testing, testing. 1, 2. Convocourses. Welcome to Convocourses. I want to start off. I got a couple things to talk about. Mostly, it's going to be talking. Mostly, it's going to be talking about questions from people who contacted me. Got a couple things to talk about, but I want to start off by telling you guys, if I can do this, you can do it too. And I just want to say, like, I'm at a point in my career where I'm making 6 figures, right? I've been doing it so long, it's not like a big deal anymore. And with the thing about it is, what's amazing is after you make a certain amount, you can invest, you can do real estate, you can start businesses. You have this extra cash, right? If you manage it right, where you can do these other things and you have more options. That's the beauty of it. And I just want to say that if I can do this, if someone like myself can do this, you can do it too. And what I mean by that is that I have a very humble beginning. You may not know it, but I was born from in a single home, a single mother home with 4 kids. We had no money. My mom was working 2 jobs. We were on welfare for some time, getting government cheese. I remember we had to warm up our house by opening up the oven. We had to eat bologna, like we had fried bologna, like that was like a delicacy. We were eating beans and rice every day. If I'm just telling you, I come from poverty, right? I come from super poor, the hood. I am from the hood. Like, I saw people die. I'm from the 1980s Bay Area hood. Like, it was bad. It was really bad. And if I can do it, you can do it too. And I just hang in there. Whatever career path, it doesn't have to be IT or cybersecurity or anything like that. Whatever you're trying to do, you can do it. And I did it by just grinding, hustling, finding a way with no mentors. I had no mentors. You can do it. Whatever it is you want to do, whether it's real estate, whether it's stock market, whether it's investing, cryptocurrency, starting your own business, getting into IT, cyber, whatever it is, you can do it. And because I did it from nothing. But you got to be a self-starter. You got to take action. And that's the thing. I think that, you know how many talented people I've met in my life? I've met so many talented people in my life, like brilliant geniuses, like from every echelon of society. I've met geniuses who could do math, any kind of math off the top of their head. I've met geniuses who are really good at fixing things. I've met polymaths who are geniuses in several things. You know, I've met people who are talented at singing, dancing, like people who could be models, like naturally talented at basketball, at engineering, you name it. I've met every part, like rich people who are like this and poor people who are like this. And you know what I've learned from all of this, from all the talented, incredible people that I've met along the way? It doesn't matter how talented you are. It doesn't matter. What matters is if you take action or not. That's what matters. It doesn't matter how talented you are. Do you know how many talented people I've met in IT? How many brilliant people I've met in IT? It doesn't matter. I'm telling you, it doesn't matter how smart you are. It matters how much, if you're willing to take action right now. That's what really matters. More than anything, are you willing to take action? Are you willing to take the first step forward? Are you willing to take a risk and fail forward? Because you will fail, but you got to keep getting up and keep going forward. Whatever you're trying to do, just take the first step forward. I noticed that the most rare thing is not polymath or geniuses or talented people. The thing that's most rare is people who are willing to take action. I meet so few people like that. So I can count on one hand how many people I've met who are willing to take action. It's so rare. If you're not willing to take action in your life, then nothing will happen. It doesn't matter how smart you are, how talented you are. None of that matters unless you're willing to take action. And there's so few people who are willing to do it. There's so few people who are willing to take action. And then when they take action, the first step, then they fail, then they give up. Like, you have to be willing to take action. You got to be willing to stick with it if you really believe in what you're trying to do. You got to believe in what you're trying to do. And that goes for cybersecurity, IT. It doesn't matter where you start. You can do it if you take action first. It might not be the outcome. And here's another thing. The outcome rarely is exactly what you think it is. In fact, it's never exactly what you think it is. I thought getting to 100K was something else, right? Now I'm here and it's not what I thought it was. And I imagine it's going to be the same thing if I hit 1 million, right? It's going to be a totally different thing. It's going to be totally different than what I thought when I get there. And that's normally the outcome. You can't control the outcomes, but you can control your behavior. You got to take action. So few people are willing to take action on anything. And that's why there's so many people who are in the state that they're in. And it's just, to me, that's the sad thing about humanity. People are not willing to take action. And take action. That's the first thing you got to do. Whatever you were trying to do in your life, take action. And it doesn't even matter where you start from, as long as you take that first step forward. All right. With that being said, let me jump into some questions that I got. I got a few questions from some folks. Let me switch the screen real quick. I got some people watching me here. How you guys doing today? I know I haven't done a video in some time, but I'm back. I'm about to do some videos right now, answering some questions. I'm going to start with the people who have sent me questions directly here. Let me just get all this stuff set up here. If you're watching me on Facebook, I just started a Facebook group. If you want to be one of the first people to join my Facebook group, it's going to be hot. Like, it's going to be a lot of people following me. You want to be one of the first people to join it and be able to say, man, I was with Bruce on that group. I was one of the first ones. Now he's got 100,000 people on there. You can join it right now. Just go to Facebook and look up Convocourses. You'll see a page. Go to the Convocourses page, and a link to that is a group. So join that page, join that group. I'm about to start inviting people real soon, and go check that out. Okay, I got my first question here. Let me switch this thing over here on Facebook. There's the question. So Natalie asked me, she said, I've been watching your videos on YouTube for various topics, from risk management framework to ISO to ISO requirements. I would like to know which areas of selecting and implementing controls are the most difficult. Thanks in advance. All right, I can answer this. This is a great question, by the way. Thank you, Natalie, for that. I appreciate you. And thank you for your service, by the way, because I know that's not easy. Okay, so this is a good question, and I would say it depends. I would say it depends on the situation and the environment. And feel free to chime in. Anybody who's out there, all my professional grade cybersecurity people who've been doing this for a long time, feel free to chime in. What do you think is the hardest area as far as security controls to implement? I believe that's what she means. Okay. And somebody said, I guess I can say I was the first. Oh, okay. Joining the group. Okay. Thanks for joining that group, sir, Sheriff. Okay. So the hardest thing in implementing security controls, what's the hardest family? I imagine what she means. It depends on the environment, I would say. It depends. Now, I'm not going to cop out. I'm going to give you the one that I think has been the hardest that in all the organizations I've been to. But it really depends. I've been to organizations where they were real tight on technical controls. Like, they had all their technical controls down. Like, they had a dope firewall team. They had the environment was good. They had vulnerability management going. Everything was automated. It was really, really tight. But their documentation wasn't good, and that's why they hired me. Their documentation wasn't good, and it was hard because when I get hired, I get in there, And then nobody wants to do the documentation. I'll do the drafts and all that kind of stuff. I send it out, but then I'll reach out to the firewall team and say, hey guys, I need a little bit of your input. Can I get like basic information? Can I get like, okay, what kind of firewall is it? Like what kind of controls do you guys have? What kind of rule sets do you guys have? I'm trying to get information so I can do like a process, right? And then they want to push back and say, well, I don't really have time for that. I don't really want to. They'll push back to me. The admins are the worst with that. They don't want to do any kind of documentation, not even to help. And then it became really difficult to do any kind of -1 controls. Your -1 controls are typically documentation based, like your policies, your procedures. They don't want to do any of them. So it made all the documentation controls impossible, really hard to do because I can't get their input. Like I bid at organizations like that. Technically they were good. But when it came down to actually doing the documentation piece, nobody wants to do the documentation. And it's very clear why they have no documentation, because nobody wants to do it, not even to help out the person who actually is doing 80% of the work. So, yeah. But then I've been in organizations where it's the reverse. The documentation was good. They have a policy, have procedures. They're updating them on a regular basis. But the technical piece was hard. They didn't have the technical piece down. Whether it's the firewall rules are too permissive, or the end user systems, these are usually really messed up, and they give too many permissions on the end user devices, your workstations and your laptops and things like that. So I've seen both, but I'll tell you this, I'll give you this. For me, the hardest ones that I've seen, the ones that organizations usually have the biggest challenge on, is SI2, which is flaw remediation, and any of the CM controls. So let me just show you. Let me show you the screen on the Facebook real quick. So this is allow me to explain. I'm on NIST 800's website. So this is there's Computer Security Resource Center. Like it has all their controls, all that kind of stuff. So let me go to the families here. Let me show you what I'm talking about. We'll go to all controls. This shows every control. Actually, let's go to the families. I want to see the actual grouping of control families. Here's the families. There's about 20 of them, right? And the beautiful thing about NIST is that you can link these controls across ISO 27001, PCI DSS, Sarbanes-Oxley. They're all of their IT controls. Like there's different controls. All of them map to. They have similar controls, right? So just kind of wanted to mention that. Let me show you SI2, and you'll see why this is so hard. So SI2 is flaw remediation. Like what does that mean, Bruce? Like what do you mean flaw remediation? Flaw remediation is fixing software, updates, upgrades, things like that. Or if you know that there's a vulnerability, it's vulnerability management basically. So organizations really have a tough time with this because, as you know, IT changes so rapidly. Like you've got all these patches you have to do constantly. You've got all of these upgrades you got to do constantly, from Windows to Cisco to Linux to you name the operating system or software. It's difficult because it's constantly changing. And so to set up a part of your department or organization that constantly does this, it's very expensive. You got to hire a person or a team of people to do nothing but do this. And it's difficult. It's a difficult task, especially if you're in an organization that's growing. It's really difficult because people want to use one person to do all that work. And if they're growing, they got to hire another person to do that. And then they have to have the correct technology in place to do it, right? They got to set up, say, a SUS server, a SUS server, or they got to know how to implement on Linux and stuff automatically. So they got to set up maybe a server to do that kind of stuff. And then you can't do that on every system, because if you have servers, you can't just, you got to test that. Like you got to test before you actually implement. And then in some case, you got to back it up first, put it in a test environment to make sure it doesn't break anything in your production. So there's just a lot of moving pieces with SI2, which is dealing, and actually there's a few other controls that kind of tie into flaw remediation and vulnerability management. But this is like the main one that comes to mind that the organizations really have a hard time with. It's really difficult, especially for large organizations. The other one that's even more difficult for organizations. I notice a lot of organizations have problems with it. And it's one of those ones that if you don't get it right, it really messes everything else up, is CM controls. CM controls are configuration management controls. I notice a lot of organizations, they either don't do it or don't do it correctly or or it's a little loose. And if you don't get this one right, it causes a lot of other problems. And let me just kind of show you what I mean by that. So what I mean is configuration management deals with baseline configuration, one of the first things. So what a lot of organizations don't understand is if you don't have a baseline, you don't really have security. So CM2 talks about having a baseline. Baseline means like, so let's say you have 100 Unix systems and you got 100 Windows systems. A baseline means all of those systems look the same. All of them they have the same controls. They have the same software configuration. They have the same whitelist. The only whitelist means only these systems can be, software can be on these computers. Only this list of softwares. You can only go to these sites. We're going to blacklist these other sites. You can only go to these sites right here. The baseline configuration is something you establish before you're even installing the system, before you create the image on those workstations for Windows and for Linux or whatever, Mac, whatever you have to have a baseline configuration. So baseline configuration is super important. Basically, if you don't have a baseline configuration, you don't have security. You don't have, it's going to be very hard to manage. Security is not just a firewall. And that's something that organizations, especially when they're like new, when you have new guys, a new CIO, a new CSO, who don't know what they're doing, they think that just buying the latest, greatest firewall is going to fix all their problems. And that is absolutely not the case. Okay, so another thing is configuration change control, like being able to change when you need to. Like the system's always changing. Like you have to have something to where it's constantly tracking that change process. Impact analysis. What happens when we put this new system in place? We have this new Windows 11. What's going to be the impact to our organization? Can we maintain the same level of security posture that we had before with Windows 11? There might be some things on Windows 11 that weren't on Windows 10 that we got to figure out what those things are. Is there anything we're missing, right? You would only do that by testing out the system, maybe running a scan, setting it up just like you had on the Windows 10 system, setting up Windows 11 just like that, and then running a scan on it to see if there's anything that's amiss, right? And you still might miss some things. Impact analysis is supposed to catch those things that are going to adversely impact your organization when you put it in place. So you know, okay, we already know we have to reset the firewall, host-based firewalls on these things, or no, host-based firewall is going to break this or that other feature within our organization, and our certain part of our team can't do their job if we turn on this host-based firewall. Like that's impact analysis. So you can see this is super important. Configuration settings, least functionality. If you don't get this right, this is one of those things that if an organization, hold on a second. Let me just tell you. This is one of those things that if an organization doesn't get this right, everything else becomes harder. CM controls are super important. Configuration management, impact analysis, baseline configuration, change control. This is something that most organizations get wrong, and when they get it wrong, it affects all other security. All documentation is affected by this. All your hardware, software list is affected by this. Your lists to what sites people are allowed to go to is affected by your CM controls. CM controls is way more important than people give it credit. And if an organization doesn't get it right, it makes everything 10 times harder. I'm telling you, like most organizations, whether be they federal or private, public or private, they have problems with this particular control. And there's any organization that I went to that had this down, it's less problems. So I would say CM controls and SI controls. I hope I answered that question effectively. Original question was, what are the hardest controls? And I said it really depends on the organization and where they're at in their environment. But I found two two. Well, one's a family, CM controls, and the other one is SI2, which is vulnerability management. All right, let me go on to the next item. All right, let me hold on. Give me a second here, guys. I gotta switch stuff up real quick, and then I'll show my screen. I got a job that people might be interested in. I'm gonna read it through. I had to vet this to make sure I didn't want it. I do want it, but I can't. I'm not leaving right now, so I'm gonna go ahead and tell you guys about this one, because there's so many jobs out there that I don't have to worry about giving out jobs there that I see out there. But let me show you guys this 100% remote position. Let me show my screen real quick. Okay, boom. Show the screen there, and on Facebook, there we go. Okay, so this is a 100% remote position. It's a security engineering job. It is in Atlanta, but it doesn't matter where it is because it's 100% remote. Any visa. That means you don't have to be an American citizen to do this. So this is a golden opportunity. If you happen to be a security engineer and you are looking for a 100% remote job, it's in the Atlanta public school districts. And what are they looking for? The Atlanta Information Management is seeking a highly motivated candidate for the role of security engineer for the city of Atlanta. I guess you're working for the public schools for the city of Atlanta. And it's is responsible for implementation and administration of network security hardware, software, enforcing network security policies, and complying with requirements of external security audits. There you go. So it's a little hands-on. Let's go into the responsibilities. Always important to look at the responsibilities. All right. So analyze security systems and seek improvements on a continuous basis. Help drive security standards and best practices. Okay. Advise and implement application infrastructure strategy. It looks like they're looking for like a dude to kind of guide them in the right direction. It seems like to me. Perform breach and threat vulnerability analysis. Okay, they need like a person who's like a jack of all trades. Seems like who's done a little cyber threat and intelligence. They've done a little bit of they know a little bit about the best practices of an organization. Deploy, configure, and monitor security tools. You know, a friend of mine did this job, something like this. A friend of mine many years ago in the state of California, he did this job, and he was the dude who imaged the systems for the kids. Like the kids would, have these laptops nowadays, and I sound so old. They have these laptops nowadays. Oh my God. They didn't have laptops in schools when I was a kid. Anyway, so kids normally in school, they have laptops. And so they would get these, he would be the person who would image it, and then he'd be the person to catch the malware or whatever. And there was a lot because kids are always screwing around with computers, right? And some of them are too smart for their own good, know how to hack the system, so they'll do stupid stuff, right, that they're not supposed to do with the computer. So he had to lock the computers down, clean them up, make sure they can't go to certain sites and stuff. And even no matter how hard they lock it down, somebody's going to find a way around or find something they didn't see before. And kids can be very clever. So that's kind of sounds like what he was doing. And he didn't seem too stressed out. It really depends on the work environment of how stressful it's going to be. But that's the job out there, guys. If you're interested in this, let me give the contact information if I've actually put it in there. Let me see. Contact information. I'll leave it here on the screen for a little bit. Let me remove my face here. Give me a second here, guys. Give me 1 minute so you can actually see the contact information. Feel free to write this down. I get these kinds of offers all the time, and so many so that I can't use all of them. So why not just give them out to other people? Why not show other people these opportunities? All right, give me a second here. Let me show the actual contact info for you. There it is right there. There it is. Feel free to write that down. contact the person. I wish I had a site or something to send you to. Let me see if there's a site. Nope, there's no site. You can also give me your email. I can forward this email over to you if you like. So you can just email the person directly. But there's the phone number if you guys are interested in it. 100% remote. Here's some of the other requirements they're looking for. This is preferred experience. So don't get confused by that. You know, like you might be looking at, I don't have no Qualys experience. I don't have 8 to 10 years of relevant. This is preferred. So that just means, just so you know, that just means they would like that extra experience. But this is what they require, right? Their requirements are up here. What you're responsible for. The qualifications are here. I'm sorry, right here. So you got a chance. You can do it. Do they have an email? They do have an email. They sent me the email, and what I'll do is let me see if I can find it. And then I'll send it over to you guys. But yeah, that's in the meantime. Here's the contact information. Let me see if I can find that email. Okay. Let me see here. Give me a second. I'll find that contact information for that. Let me see. It was, I get so many of these emails that it is crazy. Where is that email? You know what? Give me your email and I'll see if I'll forward it over to you. I'm still looking for it. Remote. Let me see if I can find remote jobs. Remote. I have so many remote. Dang, there's no way I'm going to find this. Got so many contacts. It's crazy, man. Oh my goodness. I got to find a way to manage this stuff. Oh, this is frustrating. Atlanta. Maybe Atlanta. Nope. Wow. Holy crap. Okay, yeah, I'll find it, guys. I'll find it. I got to keep this thing moving. I'm going to go through I want to go through a few questions. I get so many questions. It's really hard to keep up with them all. Here are some of the questions that I've been seeing lately. All right. So, first question. Somebody said, you sound like Lindsey Graham. I do? Okay. I'm going to heart this one. That's hilarious. Oh, Lord. William says, thank you for putting this content on YouTube. Refreshing to see someone focused on helping people and not just trying to get views. I've been watching your videos for RMF and they have helped. Yep. So I noticed also, I didn't, when I first started these videos, the reason I started is because I made a website years ago where I was talking about stuff that I wish people would explain, because that's the reason why I did Convocourses, because people weren't talking about security compliance at the time. This was many years ago. And I was like, man, I had all these questions. I'm like, damn, like, why can't I find an interpretation on this particular control? Because you go to Google and type it, and there's nobody telling, like, it's one thing to read the documentation, right? Like, you can read the documentation, but, like, sometimes you want somebody else's perspective on it, right? You just want them to paraphrase, like, what did you do for this control? I want to see what you did, so that a sample, like, you give me a sample, that's a better way for me to understand it, right? So I started doing, like, And that's what my course is based off of. It's off of, like, I'll tell you like I'll read it to you, right? And then I'll give you a tip. I'll paraphrase it in layman's terms. And then I'll tell you an example of how I was able to use this control, like what it was, how it was used in the private sector or the public sector. When I was working with DOD, how did they use it? And then when I was working in the private sector, how did they use it? So I didn't see this being talked about and like that. So I started putting it out there. That I just saw a need, and so I started doing it, right? And then I noticed there's different price. Then there are people who talk about it, but their course is like $4,000, right? And I'm like, man, what if? Okay, I get they're trying to get that corporate money. I get that they're trying to get that bag, but that I'm trying to not use as much hood speak. If you haven't noticed. I noticed that I know they're trying to get the contracts, right, which is great. Good for them. That's great. But I know that there's different price points. There's individuals out there like myself who they don't have contract money. They just want to get the information. So I want to do it at different price points so that I can get the contracting money, and I can do it like if it's on one-on-one, like me and you talking, I can tell you exactly what I did, and that give you a perspective on your job, right? I mean, maybe you can go back and tell somebody, hey, this guy Bruce, he talks about this risk management framework all the time. You go check him out, right? So that's the reason why I started talking about it. But let me get back to these questions. Let me see. Somebody said, okay, I'm still trying to get some good questions in here, guys. Bear with me. If you have any, and if you're watching me live, you have any questions regarding the risk management framework, myself or somebody on this live will be able to answer it. So this is a great time to ask questions, really good time to ask questions. If you guys didn't know, I think this is a good opportunity for me to talk about the new group that I'm starting. I'm doing a group on Facebook for those of you who are interested in going to Facebook for whatever reason. If you want to use Facebook, I got a group on there. Just go type in Convocourses if you can't find it. It's very new, so you might be the first person to sign up for this. But this is where we'll be talking about more stuff. I'll invite you in if you go ahead and sign up for it now. It's free right now. Like, it's a great opportunity to get in free, man. Like, I used to sell this course used to be free. The whole course on Convocourses is absolutely free. And then I got so many people asking me questions that I start charging for it, like $100. The course was $100. And then I expanded it by like 4 or 5 hours. And then more and more people are asking me, so I started charging more. And now I'm adding more stuff to it. It will go up in price. I promise you. Right now, this group is free. This is a great opportunity for you to jump in. Like, even if you're not going to do anything with it, just jump in right now and you be one of the first people in there. And then, I'm not going to charge you if you're already there. So jump in right now. So I'm not. All right. How's that for a sales pitch? Okay. Let me get back to these questions here. Okay. Let me see. Thanks for the videos. Doing the same thing. Okay. Floodlight. All right. That one's not exactly. Any questions, guys? Any questions whatsoever? Feel free to ask. It's open season right now. Open season. I don't have any topics. I wanted to reserve this for you guys. We talked in the beginning about some stuff, and then I think I had one other question. Let me see if I can find that one. Let me see if I can find that question. Meantime, let's put it on the safe screen. Had another question. Okay, here we go. Here we have another topic. Let me show you guys this new topic here. This is the first time I'm seeing this one, so bear with me. Bear with me. Okay. So I got somebody sent me their resume. I don't do resumes anymore. I used to do live resumes until people start complaining about. They start complaining about me posting the job description. I'm like, whoa, like I'm doing this for free, guys. Like, why are you complaining about me posting the? Anyway, so now I usually charge for this. But anyway, their question. Let's dive into this. They said, I want to start off by saying I appreciate the content. Thank you. Thanks for that appreciation you're doing to help people to help new security analysts like me start their careers. I completed the cybersecurity entry-level course on your website, and I have questions. All right. If you guys didn't know, I have a free course on Convocourses.com called Cybersecurity Entry-Level. It's based off of a lot of questions I was getting that were very entry-level. Like people were like with no experience at all. They want to know, where do I start? What do I do? So I started this course, and I used to charge for it. Now it's free because I just noticed there's a lot of people who are starting off. They don't have a lot of income, so they're really trying to ramp up their income. So I'm saying, I'll make this one free. That way you can get an idea of what you need to do for that cybersecurity entry level. How do I get in? I got no experience at all. What do I do? What kinds of things? How should I focus what certifications should I get? What degree would you recommend? Things like that. It's on Convocourses.com. It's free. But this guy took it, and he's saying, first question, are there any GRC certifications that you recommend? I saw that you don't have any in the field. Okay, so GRC stands for governance, risk, and compliance, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a lot of overlap. We've talked about GRC before. That's a very open term. It's a huge term, GRC. So this is the first time I'm seeing this one. Let me see what I can do about this. So GRC, what I mean to say is that there's a lot of different career paths that tie into GRC. There are purely document jobs that are focused on compliance. That's like what I do, risk management framework type jobs. So that actually would be risk. You've got risk-based jobs. Actually, what I do right now is risk assessments. So that would fall into the R. But then there's compliance jobs where all you do is documentation and compliance. Then there's overlap. There's people who do both. They do risk analysis, risk assessments, and then they do compliance, like where they're actually doing the documentation and making sure it's in compliance with ISO 27001 or PCI compliance or whatever, right? So those are overlapping jobs. Those are both within the sphere of GRC because you've got governance, you've got risk, and you've got compliance. And let me make sure I'm not lying to you guys. I don't want to get this wrong. So let me just show you what I mean. GRC, and let's go to images. Let me show you what we're talking about with GRC, so you can see. This is the one I normally use because I thought this was a good one. This is GRC: governance, risk, and compliance. Okay, like my memory is slipping, but today I got it right. So when you're talking governance, let's define this. Let's nail this down. You're talking about audits. You're talking about control activities. You're talking about strategy management, right? These things right here could individually be jobs, right, by themselves. You could have auditors in the IRS. You could have auditors in aerospace, in Department of Defense. You name it, right? There's all kinds of auditors. But that in and of itself is a whole career path. You got business processes. This is people who do things like disaster recovery, right, to make sure that the business continuity is in place. You got people who are making sure the business processes keep going. Your managers, right? And then you've got ISOs, like information system security officers. They're doing work where they're making sure that the system is within compliance with NIST 853 or whatever control whatever framework they're using. Then you got risk management, risk assessments, making sure that the systems that are in place, the whole infrastructure doesn't have a certain level of risk or has a certain level of risk. So there's many different jobs. When you say GRC, that's a very broad term. Now, normally, if you want to specify a job, you have the job description, you have the job title, you have the role and the tasks that are involved with that. GRC is a very huge term. So let me go back to his original question. He said, are there any GRC certifications? Okay, like I said, it's a very broad term. So right off the top of my head, there are GRC there are certifications that fall into this. There's CISSP, which is from ISACA. You've got ISC2 CAP. That one focuses on NIST 853, 837, and the FIPS compliance. You've got SANS. I believe SANS has a course that focuses on this, and if I'm not mistaken, CompTIA might have one. But all of those focused on some aspect of risk or compliance normally, and then some governance, and then actually in some of the domains, like in the CISSP has domains that talk about risk and compliance and auditing, by the way, and control activities. So it covers a lot of this ground. So that's it's probably the certifications I would say that are more GRC related. I wouldn't say that CISSP necessarily is GRC related. It has things in it from the GRC, but probably the CAP. Let me just show you what that looks like. The CAP, the ISC2 CAP. This certification right here, it focuses a lot on security assessments and authorization certification for the NIST, risk management framework. This one right here is a certification that if you wanted a certification that's within the that's very soundly within GRC, then this would be one of them. Another one, ISACA has one that's based off of purely risk, and that one is ISACA has one called CRISC, and then there's one called CISA. Both of those also kind of fall into this realm of GRC. So this one, let me see if I can show you. Okay, here's also ISACA's These are great certifications, by the way. CISA is the most popular here, the one that is gonna most people are gonna know about, and then probably followed by CISM and then CRISC. But CRISC, here's one right here, certified in governance and enterprise IT. There you go. There's another one. So you do have these. I have one of these. I have not this one. I have this one. I have the ISC2 CAP. I have this one. It's pretty good certification. People know what it is. It's not as popular as some of these ISACA certifications. Like probably CISA would be a better one to get. No, it would definitely be a better one to get. Actually, and CRISC probably be better than CAP. But yeah, here you go right here. There you go. I hope that answers that question. If you were trying to get into a GRC position, then that would be some of the certifications you can get. I think SANS also has one, by the way. Let me see. What else do we have? Question-wise. He said, do you have any recommendations on how to get volunteer experience? Okay, so for somebody who, I get this question a lot. How do you get, I'm new to cybersecurity. I'm new to IT. I don't have any experience. I know it. I need some. Sometimes they even have a certification or they have a degree and they have no experience. And so what I would recommend to get the experience, like first of all, forget about cybersecurity. Just put that out of your mind for a second. Focus on IT. If you have no experience at all, none. If you got zero, you're a real estate agent, you are a sanitation engineer, you're doing something, insurance claims, like you're doing you're a teacher, whatever, right? If you got no experience at all, then start with just IT. Don't focus on cybersecurity yet. Focus on IT. Focus on your computer that's sitting in front of you. How does this thing work? That's where you should be focused on. So if you're starting from scratch, where do you get experience? You can, first of all, you got to know what you're doing. Like, in that right there, you can be self-taught. You can go to school. I would recommend maybe taking a class or something like that. But let's say you don't want to rack up a bunch of loan. You don't have to go to school and rack up a loan or something like that. You don't have to have a degree to get in this field, by the way. But if you want to be self-taught, there's several areas that you can do it. The internet, I mean, YouTube has the best training that you're going to find. Another one's Udemy. Udemy is pretty cheap. I mean, Udemy is very cheap. And then you can go to people like myself that have free courses. I have free stuff all over the internet telling you from scratch how to do a lot of this stuff. So if you need to learn a few things. You need to learn how a computer works. Like, how does it work? And let me show you some like really solid guidance on that. One of the first certification that I got was called the CompTIA A+ certification. And that certification teaches you the basics of how computers work. How do they work? And what do you do? Like, you need to be a geek first. Like, the very first step is for you to be a nerd, geek, and get into this. Be obsessed with it and learn how computers work. Number one. So if you can get to a point where you know how hardware works, so you can configure your own computer, right? Start with your own system, your own phone. Configure it how you want. Set up the firewall. Go to your router. Set up your own router, right? Learn it from scratch. Learn how to set up your own network in your house. Be the go-to person in your house where you're teaching everybody else in the house how to connect to the network. What's broken, fix it, troubleshoot, right? On your own network. Be the resident geek in your household. Fix your own computer. Put your own screensaver up. Right? Learn how to do all that kind of stuff. But A+ certification is kind of a next level thing. Like, once you are a geek and you've like start working on your own computer, setting up your own network, then you want to upgrade. You want to get try for something like the A+ certification. Now, if A+ is too much, there's two different A+ certifications. There's a software and a hardware. They broke it into parts. It's not easy. It's a lot of data. It's a lot of information, especially if you're doing it from scratch like I did. It was hard for me because I'd never done, I was a geek and stuff, but it was like a lot of jargon that I didn't know. But they've got another certification you could take before the A+. And this is the fundamentals, CompTIA IT fundamentals. Go for this certification. The reason why I say to go for this certification is for training purposes, so that you can actually know what the common body of knowledge is. What I mean by that is, if you're a real estate agent, think of your profession, whatever profession you're in, right? Your profession has certain things that a person absolutely has to know first. Before they jump into the deeper waters, they have to know these things first. That's the same with IT, right? Before you even get to cybersecurity, you need to know basic IT stuff. And I see a lot of YouTubers out there saying, oh, like you can start, like here's how you start from scratch. Just get this Google certification. Like if you really don't know how computers work, you should probably start there. And as you're learning computers, the basics of a information system, a computer, right? Then you're going to learn the security on the way. A security is an aspect of IT, an aspect of computers, an aspect of servers. So you have to learn the basics first, like how the CPU works with the RAM, works with the storage, like basic stuff. Once you understand that, once you have a good foundation, then you can move on to the next level. And here's another thing. As you're learning this stuff, you might find you don't want to do it. You might be like, nah, this isn't for me. Like, this is not what I want to do. This isn't for me. This isn't what I want to do. This is too boring. Like, you might get to that point. And you got to learn the fundamentals first, essentially, right? And this is just one of the places that you can go to, the CompTIA IT fundamentals. And it's starting off from scratch. This is before you get to the A+, and it's a great learning mechanism. You know, a lot of times when I've prepared for certifications, in preparation, I had to set up labs. I had to understand. I had to read a couple books just to prepare for the certification. So this is a great opportunity for you to learn it. The certifications are an incredible opportunity because it's breaking down everything you actually need to know. Start from this point right here and then move forward. Now, as far as getting the actual experience, you can get that from your local community. Like you can volunteer for free to set up somebody's network. Let's say if you go to church, like you could go to your church and be like, hey, let me set up you guys' network. Let me see if you guys have a firewall there. I actually know how to do this. Make sure you know how to do it first, right? Obviously, make sure you know how to do it. Can I take a look at you guys' firewall, make sure everything is good? Can I run a scan? Like by the time you actually offer your services, you'll know what a scan is. Can I run a scan and see what's going on with your local community, right? Can I help? And then once you get to a point where you're helping the local community, and then let's say you don't go to church, right? That's not your thing. I understand. There's other places that always need help. Like there's volunteer shelters. Maybe the shelter needs an internet, right? Offer to help set up their internet. Ask them like, hey, do you guys have an internet to set up here? You guys need help with that? I know how to do it, right? Make sure you know how to do it. And then actually help them out, right? That's experience. Now you're getting your hands dirty. But before that, notice I didn't say just jump in there. Like you got to actually know how to do this. You got to start off with the fundamentals first. Then you can go ahead and get the experience. At your college, if you happen to be at a college, if you're at a university, if you happen to be at a community college, whatever the case may be, offer your free services, right? Experiences, like you might be like, Bruce, I don't want to do stuff for free, man. What are you talking about? Listen, experience equals money. The more experience you can get, the more money you can ask for, right? You got to have the experience first. Experience over everything. Experience over, I know I'm talking about CompTIA and I'm talking about certifications, but man, you need experience. Like nothing beats experience at all. Nothing, hands down, experience is the most important thing you need. So get the experience by going to your local community, go to your local shelter, go to offer your services. And then let's say you've gotten further along, right? You've gotten further along and now you're at a point where you have the A+ certification. You have maybe a Security Plus. You have an associate's degree, right? You've been putting in the work. You put the work in. Now you know how to do it. You've got some experience. Now what you can do, even without experience, if you have a certification, if you have a degree, you can go and get an internship. And those are on Indeed.com, on LinkedIn.com, on Monster.com. You got to put your resume out. You put your resume out and say, I'm looking for an internship. You can get an internship. And then you got your foot in the door after that because you can list all of that stuff on your resume. You put it on your resume. You work at an internship for like 6 months. Now you can get an entry-level position in IT. This is not an overnight thing. Like this is going to take hard work and effort because you're asking people to trust you with their information, and some of their information is critical. People are relying on that information, so you got to put the work in. So I hope that answers that question. Let me see. There was another question he had. I don't know if I can answer this one, but when searching for GRC positions, what do you type in for optimal results? I can answer this one. Okay, let's go to good old handy dandy Indeed.com. This will also work with LinkedIn. It's just it's more distractions on LinkedIn and stuff. I just want a simple, straight up search engine. You can also do this on Google, by the way. Google's an awesome search engine for jobs. But Indeed is straightforward. So let's say you want a GRC position. Now, as I discussed, GRC is a very broad term. It covers auditing, information management, information system control management, ISOs. So let's start off with an ISO. An ISO is within the GRC role. So this is one thing you could type in for optimal results. Another thing you could type in, if you happen to be a manager type person, ISSM. These are managers of ISSOs. Another thing you could type in would be auditing is also within the GRC roles. So you could type in Assessor. If it will work. An assessor. SCA. An SCA is also within the GRC roles. And as you can see, other things are popping up because people don't always use ISSO. People don't, for as far as the role title, they don't always use SCA. They don't always use assessor. Sometimes they use the term auditor. Sometimes, like, let's see. This one's a cybersecurity independent assessment and analyst. This one is a cybersecurity analyst with Booz Allen Hamilton. This one's a cybersecurity specialist. These are all terms that are within GRC and for optimal results. Here's another one. You could type in compliance because that's also within GRC. Compliance, if I could spell, compliance officer. Yeah, see how it's popping up? It's already popping up. It's already populating. That means there's jobs for that particular thing. Compliance officer, ISO. See how ISO keeps coming up? ISO's like one of the best terms because that's what the government's now calling people for this particular position. But compliance officer, another ISO, emergency management specialist, these are all GRC type roles. So I hope that answers that question. GRC is a very broad term. So it covers many different positions. Okay, I've got some questions here from chat. Thanks, William, for your statement there. I appreciate that. Helen says, I'm interested. Just sent a message on a request on Facebook. Okay, when I get off of this, I'll start inviting people into the group. The great thing about the group is that other people who are subject matter experts on this will be able to answer your questions. If I'm not around, we'll have other subject matter experts on there who can answer your question right, immediately. So let me see. Why do a lot of risk management framework jobs require a clearance? I could answer this, Helen. So Helen is asking, why do a lot of RMF jobs require a clearance? Not all of them do, by the way, but many of them do because they're normally federal jobs. They're usually federal type jobs. So let me give you an example, Helen. So if I just type in RMF, I'm on Indeed.com, I'm doing a job search, and I'm typing in RMF, right? What comes up? Cybersecurity analyst remote. And that sounds like a really good job. Executive personnel, the company's called Executive Personnel Services. Watch this. It'll be very apparent why this is they need a clearance for this. Let me show you. Okay, so here's the job. It's $150,000 a year. It's pretty good, right? The job, even though this is the corporation, Executive Personnel Services, is a contract for the Department of Veteran Affairs. So you're going to have to possibly touch veteran information. Like you're going to be touching veterans files, right? And some of their files, not necessarily classified, but sensitive information. Their social security numbers, right? The reason, and just to answer your question in one sentence, the reason why a lot of risk management framework jobs require a clearance is because you're dealing with very important information, very sensitive information, classified information at times. That's the reason why. It's not always, and right now I'm working a job that on my resume, they reached out to me because I had NIST 800 experience, risk management framework in particular, right? And when I got to the job, I'm doing nothing but assessments. I'm doing risk assessments. Turns out I didn't really need the NIST stuff. But every now and then it comes up. So I don't need a clearance for this job. It's for a private organization. It's for one of the telecoms in the U.S. So you could probably narrow it down. It's probably in your head right now. I work for one of the telecoms as a cybersecurity risk analyst, and then I go out and I do assessments on different organizations. Right, that's about all I can say. Anyway, so I don't need a certificate. I don't need a clearance. to go to these sites. I don't need a clearance I have not needed a clearance because I'm doing all private organizations. It's all hospitals and manufacturing organizations, and it's all private, right? Stuff like that. Banks, stuff like that. I don't need one, but the reason why I've had a clearance, is because at my previous job, it was working as a contractor with a federal organization, and I was having to deal with every now and then classified systems. So that's the reason why you typically have to have a clearance to do these jobs, because you're working for the federal government, and they're like, well, this person's going to have to at some point touch sensitive information, and we want to make sure. But as far as clearances, jobs that are risk management framework that don't need a clearance, there are some. Like, because some states, they don't require clearance, but they're using NIST 800, for example. So they typically will just do a simple background check to make sure you're not doing hardcore drugs or something like that. Or they might do a background check to make sure that you're not at risk to their organization. Like if you're doing it for a bank, they want to make sure you weren't a bank robber, like stuff like that, like basic stuff, So that's the reason why, Helen. I hope that answers your question. Tyrell says third party risk management is also GRC. Yes, it's such a broad term. Like GRC, that's tying into PCI compliance. That's tying into Sarbanes-Oxley. It's tying into SOC 2. There's so many other frameworks that it ties into, that it's such a broad term, like a really, really broad term. I think that's it. And I've been talking for an hour. So if there are no other questions, I think that's my time, guys. I think that's it. Wait. Hold on. I got another question. Easy says, any study techniques for the CISSP? I'm studying for it currently, and I have a lot of material, and the material is super dry. Oh my God, man. I don't envy you, man. I never want to take that test again. I never, ever want to take that test. It was such a hard test for me. I mean, I know people that claim that they took it in 30 minutes. Oh, I took it in 30 minutes. It was so easy. Whatever, dude. I took 5 hours and 59 minutes. I was like the second to the last person to get out of there. After I was done, I was sweating. I had a migraine headache, and I was thinking to myself, this is a $600 pencil, because they give you a pencil that says CISSP on it when you walk in. It's like a green pencil. They say, here you go. You can have this pencil, right? So I was like, I paid $600. I don't know how much it is now, but I paid $600 to take this test. And if I fail, I get to walk away with this pencil. So I was thinking I failed and I have a $600 pencil, but turns out I passed it first time because I studied my ass off. Anyway, your question, how to study for this. Here, I'm going to tell you how I did it, how I studied and passed the first time. So first of all, I took 1 whole year to study. So number one, I'm not sugarcoating this. I'm not good at studying. I mean, I'm good at studying. Correction, I'm not good at tests. And I know this, so I overstudy. I tend to overstudy. I know it. I take the test I study until I'm nauseated by the material. That's how hardcore I study, because I don't want to fail. I've failed before. Somebody said I took it in 90 minutes, and I passed it. I took not 6 hours. Yeah, it took me 6 hours, man. It took me the full 6 hours to take it, and it was difficult. It was so hard. And what made it hard for me was the questions. Like, the questions that they ask, the answers are what gets you. Not the questions, the answers. The answers are like, oh man, the answers are like so close. Like, the way I normally take tests is that I'll know the answer, right? But the way they word the answers are so close. Like, you'll have 4 answers, but 2 of them are really similar, right? One, right away, you can just get rid of it. But like 2 or 3 will be very similar. And then a lot of times I found myself asking, well, it depends. I overthink the questions. I overthink the answers and the questions. So I'll read the question and answer several times to make sure I understand what they're saying. So when I take the test, I'm in my own head a lot, right? That's why I have to study hardcore, because if I don't, I'm going to get in my own way. I just know how I am. So anyway, I'm on the ISC2 Square site, and I want to show you how I studied. And maybe Tyrell 3000, who passed it in 90 minutes, can tell you his techniques. Tyrell, how did you do it? Tell us how you did this in 90 minutes. Let me see. What I did was, first of all, I took the official guide, the official book, and I'm trying to find it on the site, and I'm not seeing it. I'm going to show you the ISC2. It's not a fun book to read. It's very boring. But what I did was I took notes on the book. I went chapter by chapter and I took notes. And what I do when I study is I will take a notebook like this, $2 notebook, $3 notebook, whatever, right? Lined, college ruled paper, just like this. And what I'll do is I'll fold the paper in half. I learned this either in the military or college. I can't remember which one. So I fold it in half. And then on one side, I put a question, right? What I need to know, a question. And on the other side, I'll put the answers. And then what I'll do is, once I'm done with study, I'll take notes on the whole book. And I'll focus on the things that matter the most in the book. Like, you don't have to know every single thing in the book, right? You need to know the most important things in the book. Like if they're talking about cryptography, you probably need to know the main cryptography that's out there and some of the legacy ones that are now that they're moving away from, the obsolete ones. You probably need to know a couple of the obsolete ones, right? Like you probably need to know the RSA ones. You probably need to know the legacy ones, or the SSL and TLS1. Like you probably need to know what those use, what cryptography modules that those use. You probably need to know that. Like you probably know SHA-1 that recently got cracked within the last decade. You probably need to know that, right? You need to know what it is. Like you probably need to know the block sizes and why it's now obsolete. Because that leads to the next question. Well, what do we use now? AES or whatever it is, right? AES 256 or whatever it is. Like you probably need to know that. So I would write that down. You probably don't need to know the first cryptography that came out, crypto modules that came out. You probably don't need to know the first ones, but you probably need to know the ones that just got faded out and the ones that we're using now. So I would write those down. And then when I'm done with the whole book, and let me see if I can find the book I read. It was the official guide. So I don't know. It's the official ISC squared CISSP guide. And then I went through that, took notes. And then when I was done with the book, I studied my notes. That's it. And then I took the rest of the time to study my notes until I memorized all my own notes. And then the last thing I did was I found like a question site. It was, at the time, it was called cccure.org. And they have thousands and thousands of questions, right? Just random questions. And I would take that until I got like an 80%. Because I knew the past, you had to get like a 70 to pass or something, 75. I can't remember what it is. I took it a long time ago. I took it back when it was still on paper. It's no longer on paper. I took it back when you had to have a number 2 pencil and you had to write your questions in a box. None of that. You don't do that anymore. Like now it's computer based or something. I don't know if it's easier or harder, but I took it when it was on paper. That was a long ass time ago. It took me a year to train for it. I took the Security Plus first because I was too nervous to take the CISSP. Does it help to take the Security Plus first? I mean, kinda, sort of. Like it's really two different animals, to be honest with you. But CISSP has all the same. It covers a lot of the same ground, but it's like I would say it was like 4 times the content than Security Plus. Security Plus has its own domains, and the CISSP can swallow the Security Plus whole. Like there's just so much more information in this that's required for the CISSP. So let me see. Tyrell says, I read the Cybex books cover to cover, watched all the Kelly Handerhan videos. I know who you're talking about. On Cyberary, and I took months on BOSIN practice tests. Yeah, the practice tests, those work really good. BOSIN practice tests, cccure.org, and then just take them over and over again. And then he says the CISSP Pocket Prep app on the go. 11th hour book on the last week. So this dude is probably an expert. You probably should listen to him. Like he passed it in 90 minutes. I passed it, and it took me a year to study and 6 hours. And I had a ton of experience before I even took it, by the way. I lived and breathed the CISSP for 6 months straight. Yeah, so that's facts. Like I would say it took me a year, but I didn't really go hardcore until the last 6 months. Probably last 4 months, I went super hardcore on it. And I was just doing nothing but doing practice until like it nauseated me to see the material. I never, ever want to take this test again or study for it or teach it. Or I've been offered to teach it. I'm like, I don't even want to teach it. I've taught the Security Plus, but security, I feel like CISSP is just too much information to cover. Like it's just too long. It's just too much. I mean, I don't know. I might teach it now. Maybe it's been a long time, so maybe I'll teach it now. Yeah, so that's what I did. All right, guys, that's it. Sign up for the group to get a whole bunch of free information on that group. I'm going to throw a whole bunch of free stuff on there. Whole bunch of gurus are going to be jumping on, I'm sure. They're the ones who told me to start this thing so we could start chit-chatting with one another and maybe trading jobs and things like that. Like, it's a great place where we can, as security compliance people, we can talk, right? I got a Discord, but Discord is just too noisy, and I got to quiet Discord now before I get back on there. There's just too much going on with Discord. But on the groups, I feel like this is, and plus there's a larger audience on Facebook, so let's just start this thing on Facebook. Thank you, guys. I appreciate everybody.